civil rights has a very, very prominent position. Many of the injustices and discriminatory things about the Northern Ireland state were manifested in the local government of the city and the other structures. And I think that what has impressed me is the notion that a number of ordinary citizens decided to come together and work together with a view to addressing those ills, social ills. So I think, these people obviously were giants in their community. They probably didn't realise it at the time. They probably thought, well, we're just trying to do the right thing. But it actually requires an awful lot of courage and determination to take on the structures of a state. And I think that, there would have been lots of good reasons for people to maybe find a way out of that, or not to confront the problem head on, but obviously people had decided to, for lots of different reasons. But I think, I suppose one of the unique things, it seems to me, about the civil rights movement is the ability that it had to bring together disparate groups of people who were all concerned about the same sorts of issues. And for some of those people, particularly given what their own backgrounds were, I think that was incredibly difficult and
absolutely
more challenging for them.
Well, you have beside you there a very, very famous person. Would you like to introduce him?
Well, my God.
That goes without saying, doesn't it?
It's very, very difficult. How does one introduce somebody that has made such a contribution to the subject that we're talking about? And I don't want to embarrass him either, but my view certainly is that Ivan Cooper was, to the fore, one of the central figures of the civil rights movement in this city and across the north.
Absolutely.
And, referring to my earlier remarks, and I think this struck me yesterday, particularly at when we were examining some of the issues around the civil rights movement, that given the background that Ivan came from originally, it's perhaps all the more remarkable and shows even more courage than folk that were from a nationalist background historically. This is something which I think is fairly unique, and something which all of us as a society, and I think Mark Durkan expressed it very, very well yesterday when he thanked the people that were involved originally in the civil rights movement for literally making things possible for the generations that have come afterwards. That many of those issues that people were angry about and concerned about, the discrimination in employment and housing, the disadvantage that there was in the society, that many of those things have been addressed in the subsequent years. And the truth is that that is not as a result of the terrible violence that we've suffered, but it is as a direct result of the campaign, the non-violent campaign that the civil rights movement took to the streets of this state. That initially the Northern Ireland government and subsequently the British government were forced into a position where they had to address those very, very serious issues of concern. So obviously I have, as somebody who was 4 at the time of the 1968 march, I have tremendous admiration for those people that took those steps, those courageous steps.
Absolutely. Ivan, would you like to say a couple little words, because I know you're going to do a radio interview, so I've just actually grabbed you at a bad time.
The difference between other marches and the march on the 5th of October was the presence of an RTE cameraman called Gay O'Brien, and he filmed the scenes of the RUC beating, flaying the unarmed civil rights demonstrators, non-violent demonstrators. Those pictures went all around the world, and they led to the total discrediting of the Northern Ireland government, the Northern Ireland state, and I believe of the RUC. You saw in the pictures which he took, and I have a clear recollection of him reversing and bringing his sideman with him, willing to find a good angle to capture the flaying, particularly by District Inspector McGipsy and by the scenes of protesters' heads being cracked open, totally unprovoked. I think that is a crucial difference. The late Gail O'Brien deserved great credit for that scene, for those scenes of following. And those pictures went all around the world. Had they not went all around the world, then I think that the protest that day, which is only attended by some 300 to 400 people, I think it would have gone unmentioned.
Absolutely. Well, Ivan Cooper, thank you very, very much for your time. I appreciate that. Turned the camera off a little bit too quick there for you, Mayor. I'm going to give you a slot on this advertisement bit.
Okay.
So if you'd like to continue.
Hope I don't have to pay a revenue for that advertising.
Well, we'll see. Can we do you a special deal?
But it's something that I was discussing yesterday with somebody. In the age of the computer and the mobile phone, we don't really realise sometimes the significance of these events, and Ivan has referred to the power of television and the way that piece of footage was seen around the world. But apparently in the days after the march on the 5th of October, obviously people that had observed that footage outside of Ireland, that perhaps had family here in Derry, were very, very concerned about that and had some difficulty making contact with people in the city because the existing telephone system was quite overwhelmed by the numbers of people that were trying to ring
Absolutely.
to find out.
Yes.
So you may have a situation where people, may have observed one of their family members on television being beaten by the police and then had to wait a number of days to actually find out that they were okay. But today, in the age of the mobile telephone and the computer, we all assume that these things can be instantaneous. But I just thought it was an interesting aside.
No, definitely. I'm
It
glad.
shows you, that, and apparently it was something similar around the time of Bloody Sunday as well, that there was a lot of telephone, an overwhelming of the telephone system, and people trying to find out, in that case as well, about their relatives. So it's interesting to see how communication has developed and the role that it plays, but at least the television was able to show what had happened.
Absolutely. Well, Mayor, thank you very much. I know Ivan has a radio thing here, so I'm going to have to cut you short.
You're very welcome.
And we'll catch you in the next radio show.
Yes, indeed.